TNT Fireworks Bassmaster Elite on Smith Lake in Cullman, Alabama. Sponsored by Mercury. By Power Pole. And by Progressive Insurance. A couple of hours fishing time remaining on this day here. Day number 1, 98 anglers. That's our full field. Going to fish today and tomorrow. We have got a lot more business to settle today, a lot more fishing to witness and enjoy. It's been most enjoyable. Great to have you with us here on Bassmaster Live. Welcome to the Bassmaster Studio, sponsored by Marathon. I'm Tommy Sanders here with the great Davey Height, Ronnie Moore, Mike Sukon, and Davey. I may be missing something here, but we've had some runaways this year. Runaways, beatdowns, whatever you want to call them. I don't see any way for somebody to run away so far in this one.
No, I don't think it's going to happen here for us this week. And it's going to be good. It's going to be enjoyable to see these anglers catch a lot of bass. And it's going to be really, really close. I'm sure come Sunday afternoon, we'll have all 10 anglers that could possibly win this event.
Tommy, Ronnie, I appreciate, thank you and Kyle for doing on location with us.
No, not a problem.
Yeah.
I'll say this feels like the Sabine River, even though that's probably the shallowest body of water we fish. And compared to Smith Lake, the deepest body of water we'll fish because of how many fish they're catching and how tight the leaderboard is and how key and above average 3+ pounders is to the field. We saw with Brock Mosley last year at the Sabine catch that 4-pounder. He's in the driver's seat. Somebody's going to do that this week, whether it's today, tomorrow, maybe Saturday, or on Championship Sunday. There will be a 4-pounder, and we will all look at each other and know it's his tournament to lose now based on how close the standings are.
All right, and Such, I want to revisit one of your predictions there. You were talking about 11 pounds a day. To make the 50 cut. We got a ways to go before we get there, huh?
Yeah, but the big catches like Cliff Purchase caught a 315, jumps into our top 10 after being mired down in the 40s, 50s all day. And there's guys here that don't even have bass track. You think Greg Hackney and Lester and Mosley and Polinick and Patrick Walters don't have a fish?
No, we don't. None of us think that.
Think again.
Not at all.
Think again.
They're going to have 15 pounds.
We will think again. We have to think first. But let's think about what we have seen so far. We're going to go ahead and launch right into our Bassmaster Midday Report. Let's start it out with Shane LaHue, our angler from Catawba, North Carolina. Sitting just above that 50 cut right now.
Yeah, unofficially only 9 pounds. I do think, in Such's defense, I do think that the weights, these estimates are a little low. And when you say a little low, when you're talking the difference between 10 pounds and 11 pounds, that's a big difference in where you're going to be. But for Shane LaHue, Midday Report, he has been catching fish all day long. He's one of those anglers that, if he truly only has 9 pounds, comes in with 9 pounds, he will probably be way before 49th place at 3 o'clock this afternoon, but has caught a lot of fish. And he's mixed it up some. He hasn't gone to the bank shallow, but as we were saying earlier, generally offshore fishing this week, we're talking about shallow is 20 to 25 feet deep.
He's been fishing for fish that have homes, Davey. They have a place that they come to, not these fish that are just nomadic, hanging out wherever the water is, Tom.
Are you calling a lot of these fish homeless fish?
Yeah, but by choice, though. They
right.
followed the fried chicken down the road.
He's been rounding up a few of those homeless fish as well. Jacob Porosnik is one of the favorites because we have so little past performances to go on amongst our Elite Series anglers here. But Jason Porosnik won and was an open event here 4 years ago.
Yeah, along with the fact that he won the event 4 years ago, he's really good. He talked about it this morning. I'm going to keep my forward-facing electronics, my live sonar. I'm going to be looking at it, and I am going to be out there looking for those homeless spotted bass. And he's caught a fair amount of fish. We saw him break a fish off this morning that would have helped him some, unofficially in 46th place. But there again, I think he's maybe got a little more than 9.2.
You can think about, we're almost to July. So we're almost exactly in the middle of October and April when these two opens normally happen. But the way you fish an open here in October is so much more similar to the way you'll fish it in July compared to the tactics that pop in for our April opens. As we go to somebody who was very excited. We have him on camera because of how excited he was for this tournament, and he's showed out. A little bit of spotted bass, a little bit of largemouth, and some bigger baits in play.
He absolutely has, and I'm going to stay on track with, he absolutely has more than 9 pounds, 8 ounces. Justin Hamner, unofficially in 43rd place if he has 9 pound 8 ounces, but we saw him catch a 3+ pound largemouth earlier, and several of his spotted bass that he's got in there as 2 pounders are definitely more than 2 pounds. Like I say, when the weights are low like this, when you just round it down, you know, from 2.6 to 2 pounds, and you do that times 4 or 5 fish, then it significantly changes your weight in the big picture thing. But Justin Hamner, like y'all mentioned, has been one of the most excited anglers about being at Smith Lake in late June that I've talked to all season long, and for good reason. He has been catching a lot of fish. He's been catching them different ways, with a spoon, with a shaky head, with a jerk bait a little, and also with a jig head minnow.
Justin Hammer, I got to underline what y'all said again. He said it is absolutely going to be great here at Smith Lake, so we're counting on that.
Plenty
and
of
we
numbers.
have seen some good stuff.
Yeah, plenty of numbers.
Plenty of fun, fish catching all day long. He said everybody's pretty much going to do that.
And someone, you can probably, Wesley Gore's been one guy who's been out in the abyss as well, but he's also moved up in that 15 to 20 foot range. The one thing I love about this tournament, Davey, is we don't know where that game changer 4.5, 5 pounder could come. It could be over a timberline, over 80 feet of water, or it could be in 2 inches of water on a top water. That is the options for these anglers this week on a bonus fish.
Yeah, and it makes it tough as an angler. I've been there, done that. When you really just don't know, hey, if I am going to try to just catch 5 fish, I want to keep my bait where I think the biggest fish in the lake are going to be, and it literally could be in 2 feet or 102 feet of water this week. It really, really could. To me, the bigger spotted bass tend to stay shallow up there, roaming around for those brim, and then also the offshore ones tend to like brush piles or standing timber and don't roam quite. A lot of nice quality fish roaming out there in that deep water, but those really, really big spotted bass seem to either want to be real shallow up there when they're feeding, or staying around some type of cover like brush.
Well, the real shallow guy amongst the tents, the sampling of 6 guys rather, I should say, on this day for us, has definitely been Jordan Lee.
Yeah, Jordan Lee certainly wants to stay shallow. He started shallow, stayed there for an hour or two, went out deeper, caught, this is one of the fish here, is catching fish that he was having to measure, barely 15 inches. Putting him in the live well, he had to get his limit, but once he got his limit, he's been back shallow the rest of the day, and I think he is all in on the shallow bite, throwing the prop bait up shallow around these brim. Unfortunately, for this pattern and for this technique to happen, it would have been much, much better a week ago when you're around a full moon, or maybe even a new moon a week or 2 away. You'd be seeing more of these bigger fish up there shallow. But Jordan Lee, I like what he's doing, and I think he's got a decent chance to catch a 4-pounder. And if he catches a 4-pounder, he'll put him in the top 10, no doubt.
And what I do love about it, you talked about the shallow spotted bass, the fact that he could sell out with a prop bait or a top water all day long and not worry about only targeting largemouth. He can get numbers of bites as well. We saw a spot just call up a pounder or so for him a couple minutes ago, but they're all still chasing Trey McKinney in many more ways than one, Tommy.
Oh, absolutely. He's the man on top of the mountain as far as the Bassmaster Elite Series 2024 goes. 20th place looks like underachieving for Trey McKinney, but actually he is doing just fine. He is holding serve here and doing very, very well.
He absolutely is, and he's been mixing it up, fishing deep and fishing shallower. He's kept a jig in his hand, a living rubber jig, a mop-style jig in his hand, a fair amount today, along with the other baits that he typically uses when he's using his live sonar. But a lot of the fish this afternoon have come with a jig. See him here fishing boat docks. Some of those docks he would catch more than one fish around. Like you and Kyle were talking about, Ronnie. It's a lot of his fish. He's using his technology, but he's also power fishing shallow.
You might see a Jordan Lee encounter this. This is a Wolfpack video. Jesse Wiggins sent it to us. He's won 2 opens on Smith and said this is what an angler could run across this week, Davey Height.
Yeah, and good chance this was last week when there were more brim up around the edges, but they could run in this. I talked to Brandon Cobb yesterday, and he loves to fish like this, looking for these Wolfpack type fish at Lake Hartwell in particular. Usually there's 2 or 3 fish in these groups. Big groups like this makes it easier to catch these fish because they get more competitive. But we could definitely have an angler running this. I'm not so sure the clouds and the rains helped this bite this morning. It looks like Jordan Lee was struggling more than he thought he would have been. And there were some other anglers in practice that said, man, I ran into some giant Wolfpacks just yesterday.
If you're just checking in with us, we are at Smith Lake here in Alabama, and we have not been here ever with the Bassmaster Elite Series, certainly not with Bassmaster Live either. So it's kind of kind of an education, a sort of a touch-up on what we do know, what we always know about Smith Lake and what's going on right now. And that is your Bassmaster Midday Report.
That's a great video there. There's anglers that have never seen wolfbacks. I mean, they don't see them on some lakes because of water clarity or what have you.
You want to talk about how bluffy and how cliff-like this lake is. It almost looks like a drone shot until you see the camera move and there's a deck, you know, banister there. You're like, oh, he's actually in a house looking down on that. That would be, it would make you spill your coffee, Davey. I would be, if you're a bass angler, no doubt.
I'd be throwing me some kind of top water bait out the window.
Hot dog on a hook and don't, whatever you got.
Eat.
Good gosh. You're not even that big. How does he fight that hard?
A little shaky service there, but looked like a good one. Don't know whether that one kept or not, but we'll try to stay on top of that for you. Let's get back out to Jacob Porosnik. Jacob doing good this year. He's in the low 20s on the points, so that's a good position to be in. You gotta hang on. You can't just give up at this point.
Absolutely.
You can't phone it in from now on.
Good solid year. He's had a little health issues here in the last few weeks, but doing all better now. Good to see him. Looks like he's doing just fine.
Maybe.
And they look so good in the water. I don't know.
Super close to helping him. Not quite sure. It looks like maybe he was going to put it on balance beam to be sure.
It'll be just a matter of ounces at any rate. Back over to Shane LeHue.
Gosh, I hope that one bites it. That's a big one. Better, I think. I don't know, he doesn't feel that big now. The other one might have got it. He's not that big. I think the other one got it. Dang it. One raced him to the bottom.
What does it need to be?
I think a 1.7.
Upgrading pennies.
Yeah.
Pennies make dollars.
Dollars and cents, you know. It all counts.
Pennies make dollars in a tournament like this.
That's for sure.
Jordan Lee's a two-time classic champ. He's used to hundreds of dollars of upgrades, so that's why he's going with the top water game. Maybe he likes 50s.
Didn't like making change.
No. Let me just get to my final weight as quick as possible.
That's right. Starting to wonder if Trey McKinney is hanging out with Tyler Williams some between the tournaments. He's sure keeping a brown rubber jig in his hand a lot.
I was telling Kyle that we were talking about the rookie class and how they may be categorized as jerk bait and jig head minnow anglers and forward facing, but when you think about Tyler Williams winning on a jig last year in the Opens, Kyle
how many
Patrick,
keepers we've caught today?
think about JT
many.
Tompkins' skill with it. A lot of these young guys used a jig to power fish their way through the technology where it made a lot of anglers go finesse Davy. They were able to kind of
they
adapt.
use a lot of different, I mean, they certainly don't
Glide
just stick with
baits,
one
jerk
bait.
bait,
They use a
yeah.
lot of different baits.
Brandon Pollock's fish just showed up. He's in the top 10 with 12 pounds.
I told you
There
he
you
was
go.
going to have 12 pounds.
Hey,
There he sits, right
I
there in
said
10th
it.
place on top. Alex Redwine and David Gaston.
Yeah.
Alabama guy. Corey Johnston moving up over the last couple of hours. Robert G., Greg DePalma, Ray Shakurt, and Kyle Patrick all hanging in there. John Garrett and Clifford Perch recently ascended into the top 10 as well. We've still got about an hour and a half fishing time for these anglers, these 98 today.
Discover the Dakota Lithium DL Plus 135 amp hour battery. With dual purpose 135 amp hour deep cycle capacity and an impressive 1000 cold cranking amps, this innovative battery is equipped with even heat technology, allowing charging even in temperatures below 32 Fahrenheit, and boasts power gauge Bluetooth connectivity for real-time monitoring. Dakota Lithium, engineered to power your passion from bow to stern.